And we are live. Let me just make sure that everything's good. Cool. I see you guys in the chat. I see you guys in the YouTube chat. I see you guys in the X chat. We're going to hang out and let people get in here. Come on in and hang out. If you're on X, I hate to say it, but I'm just teasing you on X. I'm going to kill the X stream and send everybody to YouTube in a couple minutes when we get started here. So if you're on X, find the YouTube link if you want to hang. And if you don't, keep Xing. Keep on Xing, because I'm sure your X feed is fucking crazy still. Good to see you guys all in the chat. Good to see the regulars. Long time no live see. It's going to be kind of a somber show. We're going to try to not get too political. We're going to try to not get too into the weeds of all of the divisive stuff and just try to figure out what's going on. What evidence do we have? What kind of story is coming out here? What makes sense? What doesn't make sense? We're going to try to just keep it real. You're on both lives. You're a legend. Appreciate you, whatever your name was. I just saw your comment and it's gone. Okay, yeah. Rest in peace, Charlie. Yeah, for real. Agree with that comment. So again, if you're coming in here on X, we're going to kill the X stream and move it all just to YouTube. So deal with it. I just figured I would tease the X friends a little bit, let you guys know it's happening, and there's a link for you. It's 4:55. I said we would start at 5, but realistically, I'm sick of waiting around. This is a tough topic to talk about. There's a million words to say, and I kind of want to just get started. I see super chats coming in, and y'all are legends. I really appreciate that. I think right now it would make a lot more sense to be donating to Charlie Kirk's family. I saw Tucker Carlson donated $1 million and set up a fund. And I know it sounds like he already did the whole job, but raising a family without him is going to be a long, tough journey. So every little bit will help, I'm sure. So I appreciate you guys' super chats. That's great. But today it might be better to donate to Charlie. Go buy a Freedom shirt from his website. Do something like that. If you're on X, I'm killing your stream. We're going to YouTube. About to cut this number I'm seeing on my screen in a half here. What do? I do that. And I do that. Peace out, X. Sick. Now we just have the real homies in here. None of this riffraff. Cool. Well, welcome to the stream. It's good to see you guys all again. It's been a long time. And I don't know, this video just felt like we just needed to do it live. It just felt like time for Free Speech Fridays, in honor of what Charlie stood for. And just in the nature of something so kind of raw, I don't know. It just didn't feel like the kind of video that you should be editing and chopping, and there's a lot to go through. It's constantly developing. Today we've had a whole bunch of developments, and so we're going to go through everything we know up till this point right now. And we're going to kind of start at the beginning. In the chat real quick, YouTube in the chat, let me just give me thumbs up. Give me thumbs up or say we're good if you got good audio and good video. I think we're all set, ready to get rolling. Good to see the X homies coming on over. Appreciate you guys. We got a love-hate relationship with X. I kind of fucking hate X. It's such a vitriolic just place that just fills people with the desire to fight, and this issue is one that is just inflamed so many people and it's just so not the vibe right now. So let's get started. We're going to talk about obviously very controversial shit today, and we're going to speak freely about all of the possibilities and all of the ideas. And if it offends you, I'm sorry. Deal with it. That's the plan. Because I already offended a whole bunch of people this morning with a pretty hot take, I'll admit. Like, I came out pretty blasting, and it went really big. And there was legit criticisms. I probably should have put the words "if so, then," to add a little bit more clarity to the possibility of the Israel theory. Dave Smith drew some had some comments on his show that I take no offense to. Dave is great. His take is way more level-headed than mine. You know how it is. But Candace has a good point that I just want to frame us with here. That this is complicated. There's a lot going on, and everyone has their suspicions of, who's doing what, of who caused it, who called it in, how many, like what kind of operation was it? And no one knows yet. We don't know. We don't know who is in charge of it. We don't know who called it in. We don't really even know if the guy that's arrested is really the shooter. All we know is like what evidence we've seen and see what that means. And we're going to go through all of it right now. But it can seem insensitive, I think, it can seem like you're trying to get clicks and views and trying to drum up like hype and an agenda if you're trying to like blame Israel or blame leftists or blame trans people or whatever you're trying to do. And it's not about any of that. It's about the truth. And that's what Charlie believed in. I don't know Charlie. I didn't know him. He's like, we weren't friends. We were kind of adversarial. And I kind of regret sort of caricaturizing him so much now. And I hope to learn from this. But if there's one thing that we all know about Charlie Kirk, it's that he believed in Jesus Christ, and that Jesus Christ to him means the way, the light, and the truth. And so it's no secret that Charlie was a fighter for the truth. And a lot of people disagreed with his truth. And I certainly didn't agree with all of his truth either. Like, we all have our own assessment of truth. And for me, there's been a lot of highlighting in kind of a metaphoric sense, how belief and truth every day, like as the years progress, as we get closer and closer to like this AI unreality, I think we're all kind of coming to realize that truth and belief are very similar things. And the line between what is true and what are you choosing to believe is true is often a lot blurrier than we would like to admit. And it's just an important framing, I think, to remember that we don't know very much about anything in this world. And ultimately, a lot of what we believe comes down to deciding to believe it. And so it matters who shot Charlie Kirk. It matters a lot. And it will deeply change history, whether we figure it out for real or don't, whether it was this party or that party or just a lone guy, how that process of disclosure happens. All of those things matter a lot. And from Candace's perspective as Charlie's close friend, for all of his close friends, I'm sure for his wife, I would imagine that those people very much want the truth, the real truth. I'm obviously totally on the sidelines of this. This has nothing to do with me, really, other than with us as a nation and with us as a culture and with journalism and with politics. And it matters. The truth matters. And so, you can call people names all you want. You can say that I'm like a fucking, an Israel freak. You can say that, people have agendas. That's cool. Whatever you want to say. But like, ultimately, until we feel conclusive evidence, which is not likely to even really ever happen for most of us, we should be asking questions and seeking the truth. So let's start at the start and kind of walk our way in. A lot of you guys have probably seen a lot of this, but we're going to kind of like tease on each little detail and pull it apart. And it all started with in a certain way, with Harrison posting this this comment on a video that I made way back a month ago. And I was talking about Nick Fuentes and Charlie Kirk debating and just kind of like this whole commentary. And he says, I'm not going to name names, but I was told by someone close to Charlie that Charlie thinks Israel will kill him if he turns against them. And this tweet turned out to be a real wrench in whatever the hell was going on, because it blew up and went mega viral. And Harrison just happened to be hosting the Alex Jones show as the shooting happened. That whole day was so fucked. Everything was like, honestly, it hit. I think I can only speak for myself, but I kind of think that a lot of people are feeling this way, where like, obviously I was always going to be saddened by this. This was always going to be a tragedy to me, but I was surprised. I am surprised by how much it's kind of like hit me in the face, and how much it feels like it's hit everyone. And like, just no one, like, I don't really have the words to describe why or what it meant or why I'm like, so I'm just going to not focus on that. We're going to focus on the evidence. And maybe, you know, in a week or so, we'll have better words for the emotional side of this thing. But if you want to know more about Harrison and his take here, this tweet, he has elaborated on it in a number of places. He did a great podcast. Subscribe to Liberty Lockdown. Great podcast. Clint is tight. They had a long conversation on YouTube there. Oh, did I close the other tab? I had a tab of Harrison also put out another video on his X account explaining what that meant. And ultimately, there wasn't a lot more to share. He's not going to name the source. The source has asked him not to name them. He trusts the source very much. And he very much, like, they both stand by that piece of reporting that a person very close to Charlie said that Charlie did say that. And there's a lot more evidence to come out around there and, you know, later on in these 500 tabs. So, the Israel thing, we're going to unpack that a little first. It's not the only angle we're going to unpack, but it's context that kind of comes before the day of the shooting. So, Charlie Kirk is kind of the caricature of the right-wing Zionist influencer. And he built the most massive, influential, impressive platform in Turning Point USA, largely on Zionist monetary backing, but also on blood, sweat, tears, hard work. Like, there's no understating how absolutely impressive Turning Point is as an organization and how impactful it is. And I was saying this to my friend the other day that even if you're not on the right, even if you don't agree with Charlie's opinions and perspectives, I would hope that all sane, moderate people in our nation right now would understand that we want young people involved in politics, and we want young people thinking critically about their future and about the nation. And probably no one has done more for the youth getting engaged in politics than Charlie Kirk. And the power of Turning Point and Charlie's platform as an influence, especially over young conservative people in America, cannot be understated. Like, it cannot. And so when the Zionists that backed him all the way, that built Turning Point USA underneath him and around him with their money, when they start to hear things like Charlie Kirk saying, oh, you guys probably aren't going to have audio from the screen because I'm not sharing tabs. You're going to have to deal with it. You don't need the audio on these things for the most part. You kind of do need the audio. Fuck. So Charlie Kirk was saying we should release all the Epstein files, right? But that's not it. I'm sure that you guys have seen his interview with Megyn Kelly, where he opens with the words, "I'm terrified." And then they go back and forth talking about how they have received some real pushback from sort of the donor class, that, like, it just feels sketchy. And Harrison, this is the video that Harrison was referring to in this kind of original tweet and conversation. He did a really great stream on InfoWars about it. He was referring to this conversation between Charlie and Meghan, where they were kind of going back and forth, and they just felt scared. It felt weird and sketchy. He was talking about like really highly intellectual critiques of Jewish donors in the American left funding cultural Marxism and like things that degrade like American values. And he was totally not shy about talking about it. This is more recent clip, but like he, with his knowledge and political expertise, if this man starts criticizing Israel in an earnest way, in an unfiltered way, he has the wherewithal and the political understanding to really open some cans of worms. And I really don't think you can understate how dangerous that would be to Israel if he were to start criticizing them openly. Who's starting all the wars? He was talking about it. Very real segment about war with Iran and just being not about it and talking about how it's good for Israel. It's not good for us. Must be a redo of the same conversation. Quote, Jewish donors have been the number one funding mechanism of radical open borders, neoliberal, quasi-Marxist policies. Like that is literally like a Groyper Nazi talking point when people want to smear that topic and don't want to talk about it. And it's like, I didn't know that Charlie was talking about these things. I wasn't watching Charlie's streams. I was just characterizing him and kind of talking shit on Twitter, kind of like a dumbass. And I wasn't actually paying attention to the words he was saying. And when you actually go back and look, he was clearly changing his perspective. And on Epstein, like, quote, this is no longer to speculation. First of all, the evidence that shows that Epstein was a creation of either Mossad, Israeli intelligence, American intelligence, etc. He was going in on the obvious fact that Jeffrey Epstein was a creation of Israel and worked for Israel via Ehud Barak and Ghislaine Maxwell. And so these are very taboo topics in general, but coming from their guy, the one that has built the new American young right-wing coalition with thousands of chapters all across America on college and high school campuses. And then his very last episode is literally a podcast with Ben Shapiro, where he just like straight up says like, you know, I feel like we should be able to criticize Israel, and like goes into it. And dude, Ben's face is just, it's not good. And so that sort of, okay, here's the other Harrison stream. If you're more interested in what Harrison was thinking when he wrote that original tweet and all that, he elaborates in it in this clip from InfoWars, August 7th of 2025. And there's a post that he put up to explain it, although honestly, he doesn't exactly add a lot of context. But so, you know, it kind of builds this narrative, and X did all that. Like, I was not trying to stoke that. I wasn't trying to get in and like blame Israel immediately, although I did, you know, fire off shots this morning, so to speak. But this narrative built on X, largely on its own. Put it all together. Sorry, guys, I forgot how to use the streaming stuff. It's been a long time. And ultimately, like, there's a narrative to put there. It tracks and it comes together. And then you should start to think about, like, what are the question marks here? Like, what factors make that story actually play? And the real question is, what was Charlie actually saying behind the scenes about Israel? What was he actually being told by his donors and by any Israelis or AIPAC people or, you know, his Zionist funders behind the scenes? How much did they know about his true feelings? How constrained was he feeling? Like, what was really going on back there, right? That's the real question. Basically, the question is, what did this guy that told this to Harrison, what did that guy actually hear? What did he actually know? What's really going on in the background with Charlie Kirk? And today, the Grayzone published this article, Max Blumenthal and Anya Parampil. Charlie Kirk refused Netanyahu funding offer, was frightened by pro-Israel forces before death, friend reveals. Now, in the article, they do not disclose the identity of their source, and they don't, as far as I saw, disclose whether this is the same source as talked to Harrison. I don't think we know that. But it very much seems to corroborate Harrison's claim. In the weeks leading up to his September 10th assassination, Kirk had come to loathe the Israeli leader, regarding him as a bully, the source said. Kirk was disgusted by what he witnessed inside the Trump administration, where Netanyahu sought to personally dictate the president's personal decisions and weaponize Israeli assets like billionaire donor Miriam Adelson to keep the White House firmly under its thumb. Like, according to Kirk's friend, who also enjoyed access to President Donald Trump in his inner circle, Kirk strongly warned Trump last June against bombing Iran on Israel's behalf. Quote, Charlie was the only person who did that, they said, recalling how Trump barked at him in response and angrily shut down the conversation. The source believes the incident confirmed in Kirk's mind that the president of the United States had fallen under the control of a malign foreign power and was leading his own country into a series of disastrous conflicts. I mean, it's an anonymous source, but like the Grayzone, they don't fuck around. Like I trust them more than the mainstream media for sure. The following month, Kirk had become the target of a sustained private campaign of intimidation and free-floating fury by wealthy and powerful allies of Netanyahu, figures he described in an interview as Jewish leaders and stakeholders. Quote, he was afraid of them, the source emphasized. At TPUSA, the rift with Israel widened, and it goes on. He had Tucker Carlson and Dave Smith on, and a lot more open conversation, and some really like legit shit was said. Some real truth was thrown down. And that, like, this is just my opinion, but in my opinion, if that was allowed to continue, if America spent the next year watching Charlie Kirk turn on the present administration in Israel, even if he maintained his sort of like greater Zionist stance, and even if he maintained his greater sort of like semi-Jewish like Christian identity, and I don't mean that as a dig, I mean that as like he literally like took Sabbath. Anyways, it that would have destroyed the American support for Israel. That would have entirely alienated the entire right wing under 25 or so, right? Like there's no coming back from watching Charlie Kirk slowly uncork his true feelings about Israel, if those are his true feelings, like we just read. And to then watch the fallout, because there's this other thing that happens, is any time that a person that has not been critical of Israel is critical for the first time on the internet, especially if they're Jewish, or especially if they were a supporter of Israel, and they say that first negative thing, and then they experience for the first time the just slander of like anti-Semitism, Nazi, you're a bigot, you're far right, you crazy extremist, and you are immediately bombarded by the Hasbara propaganda attack machine. Suddenly Charlie Kirk is funded by Qatar, and all the other allegations get thrown out. Like, it would have just shown it would have been the messiest, most like dumpster fire that you could ever imagine. So I just say all that to say that there is evidence. Like, Dave Smith had legitimate criticisms. Like, I came out very hot. You're right. Not a factual statement at the time. I said, what did I say? At the start of it, it was the internet already figured out who was the most likely culprit. And so it's not like there was no evidence. It's not like there is no evidence for Israel. And that is not it. That is just circumstantial context. But then we're going to actually get to the shooting and the day of the shooting and what happened. So there is like, because here's the thing. More context. A political assassination happens. One of the, like, honestly, like Charlie Kirk is a more significant political figure than 95% of Congress, right? Like, in a lot of ways, Charlie Kirk has done more in right-wing politics than basically every politician, except for like the core cabinet and like the key senators, right? And so this is a extremely high profile political assassination. It's not like he was protected by Secret Service or any of that. Like, there's nuance. But in a political assassination of that magnitude, the first question is, who are the suspects? And one large group of suspects that is immediately in question every time there's a political assassination is intelligence agencies from all nations. Obviously. Like, unless you were born yesterday, just read a book. If someone shoots at a large political figure, whether that's a media figure, an actual politician, a preacher, whatever, it's like, it's not always going to be an intelligence agency, but it damn well could be, right? And so it's not some crazy harebrained thing to just ask, could this have been a state-sponsored intelligence agency hit job? In this case, you would normally not think to look at Israel, which is like, Charlie is like the biggest Israel supporter ever. But when you understand the circumstances and the context, they immediately become the most likely, in many ways, the only likely intelligence agency that might have had motive. And I would argue that we just talked about a lot of motive. Obviously, it's not a thing that they would just do lightly. It's not a thing that depends who's doing it. Because let's be real. Israel has, shall we say, a habit of assassinating people like fucking crazy. And they have a pattern of shooting people in the neck. That does not mean that they did it. But it's not evidence, right? Like, it's not no reason to say such a thing. Okay? Let's be clear. So, then it was kind of weird when Benjamin Netanyahu tweeted praying for Charlie Kirk at 3:02 p.m. Literally, he tweeted it before President Trump. It was like within a minute or two of the actual shooting. It was like right when it happened. As though that's so weird. That's super weird. And he's been super vocal about the whole thing and about how he's like blaming it on like Muslims and jihadists and radicalism. And it's like, dude, Iran didn't shoot Charlie Kirk. Calm down, Benji. Get the fuck out of our country. So like, that's weird. That's just weird, right? And it does not prove anything. So on to some of the on the ground evidence. There was a couple different videos that circulated. It was basically just two videos of guy on the roof. One was before the shooting, and then this one is after the shooting. And this is just a freeze frame of just, one of the better frames of the guy's silhouette as he got up after the shooting and started running away. And I'm sure you guys have seen this stuff by now. And this is where my tabs might be a little out of order. But we're getting into all the weird stuff that's come out like yesterday and today about the order of operations, the sequence of events here that just like do not make sense. Oh, you guys literally can't even see my screen. Can you tell I haven't done this in a while? So here's what you are supposed to believe. And to be clear, maybe it's true. Maybe the story that we're being told is entirely true. I am personally, let's just say I have some serious questions, and we're about to get to them. And one of the first questions that I have is these other people that were on the ground in the crowd that looked like they were trying to be distractions. There's really no other way to say it. This guy is not one of them. This guy was like a person of interest that they detained for some amount of time that we don't really have. We never got more story on him as far as I'm aware. This guy is the really suspicious one. I mean, hate to say it, but he is an Ashkenazi Jew in one of the least Jewish states in America. There's also this thread where he was involved in 9/11 propaganda, which is the video kind of showing on the right there, which is a weird coincidence. But the main thing is this guy was arrested at first as though he was the suspect. And that's because he was acting like a fucking suspect, apparently. And when they drug him off, he was shoot me, and like making a huge scene. Like, and then his pants fell down, and it was very weird. And it was not the kind of behavior that an innocent person, like if you're innocent, you would be like, hey, I didn't do this. I'm innocent. Right? But instead, this weird old dude is like causing a huge scene as the shooter is leaving and getting away. And there was two of them. It was this guy, and it was apparently this guy. We don't have a lot of details on exactly when this detainment happened and what the context around it was. Oh, no, this is a different video. My bad. This is apparently a guy running away. There is this other guy. I don't know if I even have the video here, who was arrested with a pellet gun. And we have a video like from around the corner where he's like at the car, and he's also an older guy with kind of longer hair, and he had a pellet gun apparently. So there's all this shit happening on the ground that seems to be active distractors helping with a getaway, essentially. And that's obviously interpretation. We don't know that for sure, but it's suspicious. It's fucking weird. I mean, when, you know, I think we were all waiting to see, like, is it a trans active, like, is it a crazy trans person shooting him? Is it like a Muslim jihadist shooting him? Or is it an Israeli sniper? It was kind of like what most people were thinking. And if it had been a trans person, it would have been super weird to have like some old Jewish dude kind of running distraction for you. It's like, that's a weird combo of people to be doing stuff together. It's still a weird combo for the kid that they've arrested now and are saying shot him, but I don't know. So a couple of theories that went around for a while that had a lot of people kind of chasing down rabbit holes that are not a thing. The ring changed fingers, and it was a very weird thing, and everyone was freaking out. Like, is it all AI? Is the whole world a stage? And no, it's a clasp ring that opens up, and when he got shot, it opened and hung down and looked like it had switched fingers. So here's a video of him playing with it. So just to clear that up, if you got hung up on the ring stuff, that's why the ring did that. So we know a lot more about this element of the story now that the Grayzone published its piece, but allegedly Charlie Kirk, Netanyahu personally requested that Charlie Kirk visit Israel 2 weeks before his assassination, and he apparently denied the request. Somewhere in here, we have a report that he was apparently also turning down funding from Bibi and Israel-aligned factions in the last several months. But we'll get to that in a minute. So now these videos that came out, like surveillance videos of like the ingress egress of the shooter. I got some fucking questions. Let's just put it that way. Okay. I got some questions. And I'm going to make the video big for this one. And obviously, like, this is going to be very interpretive in some instances. But we're just going to look through this and have some questions. So we are told that this is the shooter walking towards the venue with the rifle down his pants, which is why he's limping like this, right? So the rifle is allegedly fully put together and sticking down his pants, and so he can't bend his legs, so he has this weird fucking limp all the way to the venue. But then he bends his knee on some frames. And I went back and forth a bunch. That is the leg that is causing the limp, and that knee is bent. And so it's like, if you're limping like that because you can't bend your knee because there's a fucking rifle next to it, then you can't like bend your knee. Or if the rifle's not going past your knee, then you can bend your knee and you don't have a fucking crazy limp. Like maybe the rifle is like right at the knee, and so you can kind of bend the knee a little, but it's like still awkward. But that's like really fucking weird. Um, Especially in light of like the backpack later and the rifle not being there when he jumps off the roof. Man, it's like hard to tell what's going on here. And obviously it's all shitty footage, but it's just weird. It's like, really? Is that how this dude got in? By just like limping in with a rifle in his fucking pants? Maybe. Like maybe. And then he, ran off later. But just like keep that in mind that we're told that the rifle was down his pant leg, which is what was causing that limp. But then it would appear, so then we're told that he got onto the roof, I think allegedly through the stairwell. And then he gets up onto the roof, goes, takes the shot. Well, actually, allegedly, based on what they told us in the press conference, he got onto the roof, changed his clothes, took the shot, packed the rifle up into his bag by the time he got to the edge and jumped down with no apparent long gun. It's possible that the gun is sticking out the top of the backpack. Whatever's in his hand is clearly floppy. It's obviously too grainy of a video to really know, but it's not super clear that the gun is out anywhere. Maybe that's the towel hanging over it in his hand and he's kind of got it half draped. I could believe that. So who knows? But we were told at the press conference that he broke down the rifle, went into the woods, reassembled it, and then left it there and ran off. Which is like, why are we reassembling the rifle in the first place, bro? Why did you even break it down in the first place? And if you can break the rifle down and fit it in your fucking backpack, why did you walk into the venue with it in your fucking pant legs? Like maybe, just to play devil's advocate, maybe it's that you wanted the rifle pre-assembled so that when you get into position, you're like ready to shoot. But aren't you worried about getting into position in the first place? Aren't you walking up a bunch of stairs with a stiff leg? And if you can fucking break down a rifle as you're running to the edge of the roof, like fucking who knows? Or maybe it's still in his hand and he's breaking it down on the way to the woods, but the cop said that he put it back together in the woods. And there's this element of, on that point, I believe that part of the reason why we're told that he reassembled the rifle in the woods is because when they showed us the photo of the rifle, the scope was mounted in a way that was not how it would be shooting. It was like way too far back, as though it had gotten knocked and like out of position or something. But I don't know. It's like I'm no expert on long guns. I don't have much long gun experience at all. So I've been trying to look around for expert takes on like how hard the shot was and where's the gun here and like does it make sense in the woods and how small does this thing break down? How long does it take to break down? And obviously everyone's going to have their takes. Experts on both sides are disagreeing. But like, here, I'll see if I can move myself. Not. So it's like, I don't know what to make of these videos. But I've got some more questions. Oh, this is a police scanner. If you're curious, you can find the police scanner east of the library. He's wearing jeans, black shirt, black mask, long rifle. It's a video that's 1 minute, 44 seconds long. So that's out there if you want to listen to it. I think we have more information than that by now anyways, but it's important to collect all these little pieces as it goes. Everyone's really going back and forth about whether he has this rifle with him when he jumps off the roof. And honestly, like, You can't tell. It sure doesn't look like it, but you can't tell. To me, it seems like if he has it with him, it's probably in the backpack, but it doesn't seem like that, like a Mauser breaks down to be small enough to go into the backpack. So I don't know. There was this private jet that took off like right after the shooting from an airport right next door, and it like turned off its transponder, and everyone got very suspicious of the jet. So here's an update on the jet. MJ Truth Ultra kind of knew a person that I don't know. Join our community, our state, and our as often happens, unfortunately, there's all this misinformation. At approximately 1:20 p.m., a private aircraft owned by one of our companies with tail number blank departed the Provo airport. So basically, he's saying like, this was our plane. This was not nefarious. It had nothing to do with the shooting. We disavow this. Please don't spread misinformation. Basically coming out and being like, hey, that's what this was. Don't stress it. And that probably pretty much clears up the weird plane thing. Although it's worth noting that the planes at the airport, like just the regular flights, were not grounded. So there were flights going in and out. Another update is this is the kid that asked the question right before Charlie was shot. The question was about gun violence. And so there was some suspicion floating around about like, that seems like a leading question. Like, was that person in on it? Which, you know, kind of a fair question to ask based upon just how terribly ironic the timing of it all was. But I gotta say, this dude seems very genuine. He does not seem to be making this up. He does not. He condemns the violence. He's clearly broken up about it and kind of shocked. And obviously he doesn't agree with Charlie Kirk, but he seems like a solid dude when it comes down to what counts. So I think that pretty much clears up the question of whether, you know, the person asking the question was in on it. This is just a comment that I saved because I wanted to. It's just a good set of thoughts to question. Let me be clear about the speculation. A Mauser hunting rifle is roughly 42 inches long from muzzle to butt plate and weighs around 9.5 pounds with a medium-powered scope, as shown in the Discovery photos. The black object in question does not look large enough to conceal a rifle over 3 feet long. That makes the rooftop suspect look far more like a patsy or distraction than the actual shooter. Another glaring issue is that investigators have not recovered the single round that entered and exited Charlie Kirk's neck. Just like Trump's Butler 1.0 incident, no round, no projectile, no bullet was ever found. And without the bullet, there can be no substantiated forensic or ballistic evidence linking the rifle they claim to have recovered to the crime itself. For the CSI level investigation, that gap is more than ironic. It's suspicious. And that's a really good point. And yes, the bullet has not been located, although it was probably a direct through and through. There's actually one more thing to go back to here. The bulletproof vest theories. I don't know if we have a clear answer of whether or not Charlie was wearing a bulletproof vest that day. He's well known to wear a vest underneath his clothing at events like this. But from the images from that day, it does not look like he was wearing one under this white shirt that he was wearing. But it's possible that he was. You know, I'm no bulletproof vest expert. There's this shock wave that happens in the video right before you see the blood that like is intense. It's like, and like it's surprising. If you've ever seen like deer getting shot in slow motion or ballistic jelly getting shot in slow motion, you've seen that shockwave happen. It was a lot to see it hit a human who seems like, you know, feels like a dude on the TV, a regular guy that's like here, ours, you know, just a dude. So I think it was kind of shocking to see. And I think that shockwave is what had people thinking that it had hit his bulletproof vest and ricocheted up into his neck. I personally don't think that's what happened. I think it hit his neck straight on. Could totally be wrong about that, but I haven't seen anything to indicate that we have confirmation that he was wearing a vest or that it was a ricochet. I don't know. But I do know that it matters if it was intentionally a shot to the neck or if it was a miss that hit the neck or if it was a ricochet that hit the neck, because those track with different profiles of shooters and a very different storyline. That being said, we're never really going to know the answer to that. And here's a third layer that no one seems to be reporting. The Lossy Center building recently underwent a major renovation and upgrade. It's only logical to assume multiple security cameras were added or upgraded during that project. So why then are we seeing no surveillance footage whatsoever from the top of or outside the Lossy Center structure? Correct. We do not have video of the shot. Apparently, there's no video angles that show that corner of the top of that building when the shot was taken. And there's surprisingly few video angles of the rest of the campus too, which is weird where's my boy Ryan at? Did I miss Ryan's? Here it is. I've got so many fucking tabs open here. So Ryan Mata, if you don't know him, he's the shit. He's a filmmaker. And he did a whole deep dive he actually found internal documents of the design of this remodel from Utah Valley University with their actual schematics and layouts and plans and what kind of cameras they were installing and all sorts of shit. And he looked into how many cameras are on campuses and did a whole report on the fact that they installed a shitload of new cameras, and they tell you that they were installing them on the corners of all the buildings and all these locations. And so it's very weird. Like, these are 360-degree cameras that are, 1080p resolution. It's kind of weird how few shots of video we've got of this situation. And I would recommend you go check out Ryan Mata if you want to know more about that. He posted the whole report down below. Great journalism by Ryan. So this is Tyler Robinson, allegedly the shooter. The Converse do match the Converse that were in the photos released the other day from, whatever they were taking those photos from. Other than that, it's hard to kind of hard to piece together with any level of certainty what, other than kind of just trusting the FBI. But there's this weird thread about how he was communicating with someone on Discord prior to and about the assassination. And the way the story goes is allegedly this kid who's raised by a Republican family, raised around guns as a young person. There's photos from his mom's Facebook and stuff that are going around that I don't really want to show of them as kids, holding guns and stuff. It's he was raised right wing. And so apparently this dude walks to the campus with a gun in his pants, limps all the way to campus with a gun in his pants, walks up the stairs, pulls out the gun, takes the shot, one shot, perfect shot, doesn't even take a second shot, immediately runs off the roof, jumps off the corner for some reason instead of taking the stairs. Maybe has the right, maybe packed the rifle down into his bag, maybe he's carrying it and we can't really see that. Runs off into the woods, reassembles the rifle that he has apparently broken down since he took the shot, because now the scope is fucked, reassembles it and hides it in the woods so he can come back for it later, goes and runs home, and then just tells his decades of police work dad, his dad was apparently law enforcement for a long time, and that's why he was raised super right wing like this, and he's just gonna go and tell his cop dad that he did this. I am very confused by that. And also the fact that I haven't done the deep dive on how long he had been at college. He wasn't at this school. He was going to a different college, but I saw a post that said he'd only been there for one semester. I don't know, but the idea is that he was radicalized by college. Do I have the photo open? Did I keep it open? I don't think so. And so it's wait a minute, you went from that to that in one semester? Here it is. So this is apparently a more recent photo of him. You can see the painted nails, bracelets, trans flag, pride flag, masking, nice and skinny. From that to that, that's university, I guess. But it's just weird. And we'll probably talk for a second in a minute here about how everyone's trying to pin it on like an ideology and a side, and I get it. But you know, it feels pretty divisive right now and not super. We'll get to that. So yeah, this is where this press conference, they told us that the family turned him in. They didn't really tell us that he exactly admitted to it. They told us that he like alluded to it, and then they like called him in and kept him there and turned him in. But then apparently, going based off of the press conference and what we're told, it's not exactly adding up, because we were told that he lives at home with his parents during the press conference. But then we were also told that he has a roommate. Maybe he lives with a roommate in a part of his parents' house or property. I don't know. But apparently he has a roommate, and apparently he had been talking to the roommate on Discord about the rifle being hidden in the woods, and he needed to go back and get the rifle later. And apparently he's just Discording his roommate about the assassination that he's just done, and he needs to go get the rifle. And apparently the roommate is showing the police, when they're there, showing them this Discord file, because they asked him, hey, can we see that? And he said yes, and he showed them the messages in the Discord, and they apparently took photos of each of the messages, and then they like conveyed what they were to us, but we haven't seen them as far as I'm aware. And so that is like a weird chain of custody on the Discord piece. And we all know that there's some crazy shit happening in Discords, in the internet in general. The grooming stuff happening, the 764, the whole thing, like the whole comm community that I did a thing about like a week ago that's up on my channels right now, that if you don't know about the comm, it's so fucking dark. And there's so much with all these shooters, there's like something pointing in that direction with everything. In this case, allegedly he had scrawled inscriptions on all of his shell casings and on his rifle or something. And it was all internet slang. The arrows one, like up, down, down, right, or whatever. That is apparent. That's a code from a video game that I forget what it is. My buddy just told me it's not Rocket League, but it's like a video game that I don't play. All the slang was kind of like deep, like deep internet meme slang. Some of it kind of leftist, but it's all just kind of generally like just brain rot. Essentially, it's brain rot. It's like what you would call fucking brain rot. It's the things that like your 14-year-old son just goes like skibbity 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 skibbity, like while they're playing Call of Duty and like trying to get headshots, and then they're like throwing controllers and then just like saying things that make no sense on repeat. Like, kids slang has always been weird, but social media and internet culture has made this weird feedback loop. If you have young children, you know what I'm talking about. And so the stuff that was written on the bullets, in all the cases, basically, like in the Butler one too, or not the Butler one, the Catholic school. And in this case, it's like there's indications that he was deep in internet subculture. Though in this case, not nearly as deep apparently as the trans shooter at the Catholic school, but it's just worth asking about. It's worth looking into, because man, this is kind of a sidetrack detour rabbit hole, but it's probably worth talking about for just a second. Do you know what a Manchurian Candidate is? A Manchurian Candidate is a concept from like the 70s and the MK Ultra days. And it's a phrase that I believe came from internal to the agency first, but then was made a thing in pop culture. There's a movie about it. But it's the idea that is a very real idea. It was like the goal, the holy grail of the CIA's black budget programs and of MK Ultra in the 70s, 60s, and 70s is it possible to program an assassin, whether that's using drugs or hypnosis or mind control or internet grooming? The Manchurian Candidate is this idea of, what if you could program a random, just any old person to like hear a song, play a sound, flip a switch, and then they like switch into a psycho killer that goes and assassinates someone for you, and then they forget all about it. They have no idea what's just happened, and it's like, what the fuck? And suddenly you have the perfect killing weapon that can never be traced back to you, that can be deployed anywhere in the world. That's what the Manchurian Candidate concept is. And the comm and this internet grooming stuff, it looks an awful lot like exactly what they were looking for. And I cannot help but wonder if there are intelligence agencies in the comm or other organized crime units or, you know, foreign agencies that are using it to, like, I feel quite sure that there's some fucked up politics, black budget politics happening in the background of that, because that is a powerful tool to achieve some of their most fucked up secret goals that they've had for a long time. So I'm honestly like, when it comes to this kid, dude, this guy, this lost piece of shit, I don't really feel like I even get it. I don't know what his ideology was. We don't have a manifesto. We don't have like writing from him or videos from him. Is like he was raised right wing, but then he was like, you know, you saw the photo I just showed you, right? Wherever it went, I don't know where it went. It's probably gone now, but or am I on the page? But it's like a lot of people are trying to speculate about what his ideology was. It's like, dude, I don't know what his ideology was. Like, was he like a left wing, like gay pride trans activist guy? Based on that other photo, you could make that argument. Based on this photo, you'd call him a groiper. Like, I haven't seen any evidence of any of anything really substantial other than allegedly what was written on the casings. But it's really too early to know, and I'm not even convinced that we can trust that this is the guy yet. And piece of reporting just came out. His grandma apparently is saying that he's never shot a gun in his life, which doesn't really square with the photos that we've seen, but we'll get to that in a second. Steven Crowder coming out with exclusives left and right here. This is apparently the charging details. I'm not sure what the technical term is, but it's not like it gives us any new information other than like his personal details. Probably it tells us what the charges are, I guess. Felony discharge of firearm causing serious bodily injury, obstruction of justice, aggravated murder. My understanding is that the death penalty is on the table more than once with all the charges combined. That is my understanding. Anomaly, as always, full of great takes, just reminding us that there is no footage of the shooter actually firing the shot, which is pretty weird. All things considered, it's not like you would expect people to be cell phone videoing the opposite direction of the show, but with all the security cameras around and with all the people, like, it's, you know, it is a little weird. Mehdi Hassan, I'm not trying to pick on Mehdi specifically here. This is just an example of the back and forthing that's happening of like, are the Trump supporters the murderers or is it all the libs? And it's like, guys, like, yes, yeah, there is violent ideology. And I don't really care if it's both sides or if it's one side or the other. It's like fighting over it is just increasing the divide. And it's not like, yeah, the left is fucking insane. I left the left for a reason, and they are violent and they are out of control. And like, we've seen a lot of shootings by leftists, but it's like, it's not like you can pretend that no Trump supporters ever hurt anyone. It's just a losing argument. It's just a fucking mud throwing fight that's like it's pointless. If you want to change the country, take Charlie's example. Where dialogue ends, violence begins. And so you need, and I know people are going to fucking, you know, be pissed. And it's like, Ian, we're fucking over it. It's time for war. It's like, get fucked, dude. You go have your own war. I am far more interested in listening to the other side and hearing their grievances and understanding where they come from and why they believe what they believe and having a conversation about it than I am in having some fucking LARP war as though you're like in Civil War 2.0. It's like, yes, this was a turning point, but what kind of turning point? Like, the deep state agenda has always been divide the people and have them fight each other. And oh boy, they've been working on a race war for a long time now. It's like, let's not let Charlie Kirk's legacy be the incitement of that fucking conflict. And so maybe one of our closing thoughts on the sort of like the status update here, although we'll go through some of the most recent ones here in a second. But Ben Shapiro is apparently now taking over Charlie's place at TPUSA, which is not the best look. Like it makes sense. Let's be clear. It makes sense based upon just the landscape of the conservative movement and Ben's relationship with Charlie over the years. It makes sense. But there's this other, subtext, this other layer that does not look great. It's like, the giant Zionist organization and the beloved founder and head of the whole thing that just got assassinated brutally, that there's a bunch of rumors that he was breaking up with Israel, and there's a bunch of evidence that he was breaking up with Israel, and then like he's assassinated in cold blood, and then they pick like the Jew shill that everyone thinks is a Mossad agent that no one trusts and no one listens to anymore. They pick him to like take over that extremely powerful political grassroots like right-wing organization. That's like pretty awkward choice, guys. And like it's not my choice to make. It's not my life. Like I'm not fucking involved. It's like don't take this as me being like I fucking know what's best, because I don't. Like you guys do you, but the optics are not great. Right? Like let's just say the optics are not great. Before we get to that, oh, you guys won't be able to hear that. I'll have to reshare. So I just saved. Oh, okay. The photos are not the same person. Tyler Robinson is shown in a bedroom, and Sky Valadez is shown on a roadway. Oh, look at me making a mistake here. Thanks, community notes. This is apparently a photo of there was a number of like fake doxed people that 4chan, as always happens, 4chan and X, everybody went hunting based on the few little photos that were given out. And like, I don't even know how. It's like maybe they're scanning through old Charlie Kirk videos and they like just like face matched on visual that like, oh, this is our guy for sure. It's like some random dude somewhere. I don't know. Like everyone in Utah was suddenly a suspect, and like we're just gonna let 4chan scroll through everyone's photo in Utah and be like, that's the guy for sure. And they're like spreading fucking his personal information and where he lives and his name and his friends and his family all over the internet. It's like super fucked up. Like I get people that were criticizing my hot take on Israel this morning, but like holy shit, that's like a different level to be like straight up doxing people as though they were like assassin murderers with like no confirmation at all. So thank you, community notes, for straightening us out on there. Mask kid, not the same kid. I thought I just saved a post about grandma claiming. So it was Crystal Ball from Crystal and Sagar from Breaking Points that claimed that he only went a single semester to this university. This is his family in these photos. I don't want to show those. I don't want to show kids on my channel. I haven't actually gotten to watch Nick's stream yet. I've just seen a couple clips, but I hear it was a total banger, and I'm not one bit surprised. And I've got to say, I'm proud of and for Nick for nailing it and for doing the right thing and for not trying to like dance in this moment. And I think Nick is really showing a lot of tact and poise and maturity, the right kinds of it this year, which is not to say that he was like tactless or immature before, although sometimes, but just to say that he's really on point this year, and it just is really refreshing, honestly. And I saw this funny post of this girl. It's like, I was told Nick Fuentes is a Nazi and all these things, and so I went and watched, and she's like posting his stream, and she's like, and oh boy, is that not what I found? Because his stream was like super respectful and honored Charlie Kirk's memory, even though they were like literal arch rivals. It was just a kind of a wholesome like outcome, so to speak, of a tragic circumstance. So good on you, Nick. Nice job. So I guess now what I'll do is let me just double check and make sure I don't have any other sources to share. Maybe I'll talk to the chat for a second. I don't really want to linger and talk on it forever because honestly, I don't really know how I feel. Well, no, that's a fucking lie. I do kind of know how I feel, and it's not good. But there's just like no words to kind of capture it, and I think a lot of it for me is like I don't really know why. Like I'm not involved. It's not about me. I'm just a dude that talks shit about Charlie Kirk on the side, and maybe that's why it kind of hit me really hard because our world is full of a lot of judgment. Everyone's fucking judging each other. Everyone is just treating each other like such shit. And Charlie's a super polarizing guy. But X and Twitter and all this shit, this is not real life. And when you go out in real life and you actually meet people, like, unless you're a piece of shit, like 90% of the time, 95% of the time, it's awesome. They're awesome. Like, people are real people out there. And like, realistically, you'll get along with them. Like, when I go to events and places where you're meeting all these different influencers from every angle of the aisle, like, almost every single one I get along with so good. And Charlie obviously is an example of a guy that, like, even like you can disagree with his takes, but like if you want to talk about his character, like, I hope that you're an amazing father that's loyal to your wife, that's dedicated, that has faith, that lives by that faith. Like, in order to come at Charlie's character, I would hope that you are living a life more right with God than him, which I doubt you are, because it's hard to find a single man on this planet today that is living a life as right with God as Charlie seemed to be from the outside and from everyone around him saying how it was. Like, that is real respectable in this modern world. Like, I don't I think one of the greatest crises in the modern world is how many men and women in their own ways are living godless lives. And like how many men and women are not just living godless lives, but are living lives that are like actively just like avoidant of the concept of God, like shunning God, like mocking God. Like, obviously everyone is fucking not perfect, but you can do your best to try. And I got to say, Charlie Kirk sure as fuck did his best to try. And love him or hate him, like, that's super respectable. So, um, to summarize it all up, to wrap it all up, it's a tragedy. And I'm not going to delete any of my prior posts. I didn't delete my Israel take, even, like, we'll just see what happens. I've come to be a fan of leaving your own mistakes on the internet too, so that you can learn, I can learn from them, but also so that other people can see that I am not perfect and I've made mistakes and see what I've said in the past. And I don't feel like deleting, like, unless you're spreading danger to someone, like you're doxing someone that's like wrong, like unless you're spreading like misinformation that harms someone, um when it's misinformation that just harms me because I got something wrong, I feel like it's better to leave that up so that, we can all know, instead of trying to hide things like that. So for example, I like had some pretty critical tweets at Charlie over the last month or two that ultimately, like, it would feel weird to try to delete those things because, you make your choices and you got to live with them. And if you don't like your choices, learn from them. So I don't know. I just am praying for our country. I hope that we don't fucking go to civil war, because that'd be super dark. Yeah, I don't know. And I really hope, pray for Tucker and Megyn Kelly and Candace Owens' safety, because it would be really bad if this happened to another pundit or journalist or influencer, because the chilling effect would be very real. Like, I'm sure that everyone in the industry had the thought over the last several days, because it just kind of came out of nowhere. And I mean, it's not like Charlie wasn't controversial. It's not like Charlie didn't know the risks, but knowing the risks and seeing the risks like bleeding out on camera is a whole different thing. So yeah, I think in conclusion, find God, whatever that means to you. It does not need to be a Christian God by any means, but find righteousness and truth in whatever way is right for you, and hold on to that. Drink water, eat healthy food, tell people you love them, form real relationships with real people, listen to the other side, try to be a kind and loving person. Stay safe. And I've been working on a whole different video that's very cool, that I'm very excited about, very proud of, that's going on my channel shortly, but it's just not the time to put it out right now. So we're going to let this story roll a little bit, try to figure out what the truth is for at least another day or two. And then I'll probably have that stuff for you guys probably Monday, maybe Sunday. We'll see. Y'all have a great night. Love you all. Thanks for tuning in.